Hello all, this is M in my capacity as editor. Just wanted to preface this show with Gino's microphone was having some issues this episode. If it sounds a little weird, that is why. We're going to work on it for next time. Thank you for your patience. Enjoy the show.
Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up. Break it down like this. Hello, Internet. Gino, that Guido Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we're going to be discussing Unsighted, a video game about robots that also like other robots, and also like playing Metroidvanias. And joining me to discuss Unsighted is, as always, Pete Busby. Hello, Pete.
Hey, what's going on? This was an interesting game, fun game I'm excited to talk about. This week's fun fact is going to start fun and then get kinky. So, prepare yourselves.
I'm excited that it went that way, because usually when you say it's going to start fun and then it's usually followed with horrifying.
Yeah, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Upsetting. But this is great. Okay, let's see.
Yeah. So, in the... I'm not sure if this is an island or a city. I guess I should have looked it up. Gino, are you familiar with Manoa in Japan?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So in that area, whatever it is,
what was
monkeys,
the name of it?
Minoo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Minoo.
Minoa.
Minoo. Okay, I apologize.
Minono?
Minoo. Two O's.
Oh, Minoa. Okay.
Okay, but not the point.
Mm-hmm.
In this area, monkeys are known to ride sika deer as a means of transportation. And in return, they'll groom the deer and give them food, fruits and such. So that's the cute part. The kinky part
Now the other shoe needs to drop.
Yep. Female monkeys will also grind on top of the deer in what the scientists say is a very obviously sexual manner. So basically, yep, these female monkeys are getting off on the backs of male sika deer.
Only male sika deer?
Japan. Yes. Well, I shouldn't say only, predominantly at the very least.
So Mino is a city in Osaka.
Gotcha. So in there, or well, I guess outside of there, they would ride, and a male adult deer seem perfectly fine with it. They keep eating. They don't really react. But yeah, these monkeys are having sex with these deer. Like a lot.
They're into it. And the deer are like, okay.
They're like, whatever. Sure.
This is happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Well, thank you, Pete, again for another disturbing, accurate fact.
Mm-hmm.
That other voice you heard is M. Palladino, Mistress of Games. Hello. How's it going, M?
The groaning voice you heard. Hello, everyone. I'm out of Final Fantasy Q Hell to talk about this game, which has saved me from going insane while I'm stuck in Final Fantasy Q Hell. For those of you who do not know, Final Fantasy XIV's new expansion dropped, and there's a lot of people trying to play that game. Too many people, in fact.
And why do you have to line up? To download it, or what's the deal?
Literally get into the game.
Oh, weird.
So Square, did you have the background on this? Because I have a little background.
I know some of it. You can share your knowledge.
So my understanding is that Square kind of knew this was going to be a big hit in terms of the amount of volume they were going to have to move, but because of the chip shortages recently due to COVID and supply chain constraints, they could not online as many servers as they thought they needed. So folks are stuck.
There is a semiconductor shortage due to COVID that has still not been sorted out. So they were trying to get more servers in time for this release, but they couldn't because there's literally nowhere to get it from. And so they are sort of relying on their servers to hold up. It's been rough. There's about a queue of anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 people trying to get into this game during peak hours. and if your internet goes down, you will be kicked out of line. So I've been playing at 2 in the morning to 5 in the morning, basically, because that's the only time I can find time to get in.
What a normal time to play a video game.
Yeah. I am like not even a tenth of the way through the story. I have not hit a dungeon yet. I'm falling behind.
Is there like a time limit? Like conceivably, could you log in and if you just never logged out?
There is if you are AFK for 30 minutes, it will log you out automatically because of you have to deal with the congestion somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And also if your internet goes down, there's like pretty high chance that you will get kicked out. So that's
cool.
Fun. That's what we're dealing with for this week.
That's bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Apparently it's a masterpiece from people who have completed it, so I'll get there eventually.
People who got in and then never got out.
Basically, yeah.
They did it in like 1 20 or 30 hour sitting, never logging, which is horrifying.
Yep.
But hey, look, you do what you gotta do. The spice must flow.
True.
All right, so before we get into Unsighted, just our normal housekeeping reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. A little bit of a heads up, Game of the Year is on the way soon. So if there's any category you would want to see, any suggestions that you have for how we can revamp our Game of the Year, get them in there. Send an email, send in a tweet at us, support us on Patreon, and then get in the Discord, and then shout at us. And that's a pretty effective way of doing it, because if you do it that way, you end up on the Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. This week on the Discord report, we had a movie night the other day.
We did.
What movie did we watch, Gino?
The Spirit of Christmas.
We talked about this movie before. You've talked about this movie before.
I have.
Why?
Which one is this?
This one was made by Lifetime, a fine purveyor of films. The movie's concept is there's a careerist woman who wants to be a lawyer who needs to sell a hotel. She's from Boston, but she has to go all the way to Vermont to sell this hotel because the appraisers won't appraise it. You know why, Pete?
Ghosts?
Ghosts.
Ghosts. This does ring a bell.
There's a ghost that shows up for the 12 days before Christmas, and everyone who's gone to appraise this hotel has left spookified. And so she has to go in there to figure out what's wrong with the hotel and how to solve the problems of the ghost that lives there, who's a hot guy from the 20s. Maybe she finds love. Maybe.
I feel like we talked about this before, because I feel like I remember asking, like, if you think you could fall in love with somebody who lived 100 years ago, or if just the culture gap would be way too big.
We've definitely talked about this before.
This movie does not care to ask that question. It instead says, what if he barely spoke? And emoted with about as much force as, I don't know, a mannequin. It's truly impressive. He's basically knockoff Henry Cavill. Everyone is doing their best, and they're maybe not so good at it. But it's a fun time. Of the Lifetime movies, it is watchable, which is nice. So we did a watching party. We will be doing a watch party, it sounds like, of the Star Wars Christmas special.
Infamous.
Ooh.
The infamous Star Wars Christmas special. Have you ever seen this, either of you?
I have not.
No. I've listened to a lot of podcasts on it, weirdly enough.
It is something you should see at least once, just so you can understand why it's so bad. It was made in the gap between Star Wars 1 and 2. Well, 4 and 5 now, but at the time they weren't sure they were going to make another one. So they were just sort of
Cashing in.
Yep, that's basically it. It is about 3 hours long.
That's so long.
Yep, it's very long. It's got a bunch of like weird, horny dance routines.
Yes, supposedly they did it to try to get softcore porn on the air.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what like the writers say.
Intentionally they did that?
Yeah. According to the writers. Again, this could be revisionist history, but that's what they claim.
Gotcha. Well, they certainly
stealing
did.
valor.
If you want to meet Chewbacca's family, including his son, I don't remember his name, but he has an equally...
There's Lumpy.
Lumpy, yep.
Yeah.
Chewbacca family.
Oh, God. They have such dumb nicknames. They don't speak any English. It's all in Wookiee.
It's not subtitled.
Nope.
Good.
It's just howling.
Yep.
And sometimes there is a human character who will then respond as if they had said something in English.
Oh yeah, of course, Chewbacca.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna watch it. It will be strange.
I hope it'll be strange. That's what I want. I want strange.
You're in luck.
Yay.
What else is going on in Discord? Did we forget anything?
Game of the Year's coming up. Got nominations coming in. We're discussing different categories and such. I think those are the main things. I am yelling at people to play cards with me because the new set of FFTCG is out and I'm testing decks.
Never.
That's fair. And then basketball is continuing.
Can I ask you two a question that I only want a yes or no answer to?
Sure.
Yes.
Are you fans of Stephen Sondheim?
No.
Okay.
Of his work, I have only seen West Side Story.
Okay.
And I don't like West Side Story.
Well, Spielberg just remade that too, but Sondheim just passed away recently. I don't know anything about any of his work. It's the only reason I ask.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of, he was kind of the old head of New York theater for a while, and apparently, he actually gave back, he would show up at workshops for people, and he would pay it forward in a way that most big-name directors and writers do not. And so it's hard to say that New York musical theater would be the same without him. I don't love some of his work. I know Into the Woods is supposed to be very good, but West Side Story, to me, it's just so dated that it's hard to go back and watch. Though I think the choreography is great. But yeah, if you've did either of you watch Tick Tick Boom, the new
No.
Well, it's not a documentary, the new movie on Netflix?
Yeah, on Netflix. No.
It's a musical that's about the writer of Rent. He made a one-man show before Rent. It's kind of a intermingling of biographical events, his one-man show, and some foreshadowing, because he passed away the day Rent went into previews. So he is kind of a tragic story. And Stephen Sondheim makes an appearance. A person playing Stephen Sondheim makes an appearance because he actually showed up to this dude's reading of his first musical and gave him critiques on it. So it was a weird thing to watch a movie with a character playing Stephen Sondheim. I think it was the day that he passed away that I was watching it. I'm like, what the hell? What are the odds? But apparently that was the sort of thing he did. I really recommend, if you can find, there's videos of Stephen Sondheim at a theater school giving pointers to actors on his own, performing his own play, and watching him just look on with joy and pride at these actors nailing some of his harder songs is it's a delight. You could tell that the guy really enjoyed his craft. R.I.P. Stephen Sondheim, even though I never want to watch West Side Story ever again.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted.
Yep. So with that, now let's move on to my obsession of the week. And this week's kind of a somber one for me. So my rabbit of 8 years passed away a week or two ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. My little bunny baby passed away. And I just want to give a shout out to rabbits. My obsession of the week is rabbits.
Sure. They deserve it.
They are adorable. They are very, very cute. They are affectionate. And I feel I should emphasize this because most people seem to think that rabbits are like hamsters. You feed them. They don't really give you much affection. They're mostly kind of off in their own little world. And mostly they stink. But rabbits actually take care of themselves much like cats. They will go in a litter box. They will clean themselves. You basically never need to clean them. They show affection. They like being petted. They will lick you. If you take good care of them, they will run around and jump in the air and be all excited. Only thing is, don't let a rabbit just kind of be unattended to, because they will chomp on wood and bite wires. They like testing things with their teeth to see if they're edible. So don't just let it run around. But as long as you've got some space, like a pen or something, they are very affectionate pets. They are adorable, and mine is much missed.
I have 2 rabbits right now. They mostly just sit in a box and eat hay. Give a little pen for them. They do not give very much affection.
Aw, yours don't lick?
Not really. I mean, I could try sitting in there and see what they do, but usually if I am in their pen, they just hide in their box.
Aw. Yeah, my rabbit, I had her in a double-decker cage, and we would let her out every day when I would give her lunch. So she would run around our living spaces and just kind of have fun. And then she'd lay next to me, and I'd pet her head.
Oh,
And
that's
then
so
she'd
cute.
Then she'd lick my hand or my face.
Mm.
She was a very good girl, and it was a hard week losing her. She's in a better place. It was not a fun final week, but so comes for all of us eventually.
It's true. Ashes to ashes.
And so with that, R.I.P. my bunny, and on to Unsighted, which in some ways is also about tragedy. How's that transition? Is that an okay one? Did I do it?
Excellent. I don't think there are any rabbits in it, so it's probably as good as it's gonna get.
There are mice.
There are mice.
There actually are rabbits. You can kill them by accident.
That's true.
Very sad every time.
Them and deer. Look, if they don't want to get killed, they shouldn't be near the death robots.
True.
So, Em, since you picked this game, why don't you give us a little rundown? What is Unsighted?
Sure. Unsighted is a game from Studio Pixel Punk. It is a Metroidvania style kind of top-down fighter is how I would best describe it. Sometimes it's a platformer. It is following the adventures of Alma, the robot who is trying to stop the unsighted threat that has come to this city in a span of time that seems to be within like 300 hours, because they're going to run out of anima in the city, which is powering the robots, and then all the robots will become unsighted, and then they will be monsters.
Yeah, they basically go zombie. They go feral when they run out of anima.
Yes. It's kind of what gave them sentience, and then they are going to become the monsters that you are fighting in the streets.
Can we talk about anima for a second?
Sure.
I think it's cowardly.
How so?
So anima, there's this whole thing about humans in philosophy, and it's sort of like what sets us apart, and if anything at all, right? I would say nothing really. But one of the answers is substance dualism.
Billy's old favorite.
Yeah, Billy's favorite philosophical point, which is completely ridiculous and untenable. But the idea is that there's just some sort of special essence to humans that makes us unique and better and deserving of moral thought. And I feel like anima is trying to do an end run around the question of what separates humans and robots. So the answer is still there's some ineffable substance, and it turns out it's anima. So we know what it is. So I think it's a cowardly solution to a philosophical conundrum. Although I get what it brings to the game.
Yeah, what makes these robots people? They got ooh to human, and as long as they are covered in it, they can think. Otherwise, they're murder bots.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, it was a crystal from space, actually. So
it doesn't improve it.
It's the Stephen King answer to why anything is happening.
It's a crystal from space, and also represents alcoholism.
Yeah, I didn't write it, so.
Yeah. So the gameplay it's a Metroidvania style game. It's an amalgamation of a lot of mechanics and styles of other games. It is very much a product of the zeitgeist in a lot of ways. So the game starts out with the main character Alma waking up in an underground lab. You get access to a sword and a gun, and then you are basically tasked with going out, fighting these unsighted robots, and finding 5 meteor shards, 5 MacGuffins, that once you assemble them, you will make the Sword of Killing, that once you have it, you can go and fight this big bad goo beast that's coming from a big tower in the center of the map. The basic gameplay is Metroidvania style. It's a bit of Hyper Light Drifter. It's a bit of, any of your Metroidvanias. You're going to find an object. That object's going to unlock certain types of obstacles. There'll be obstacles that you see that you don't have the right object for yet, so you'll have to double back. And each level introduces one new navigation item that doubles as a weapon. So, you get a shuriken, which is the boomerang from Legend of Zelda. You get a hook shot, which is the hook shot from The Legend of Zelda. You get a spinner, which I believe there's a spinning top also from Zelda that you can get. There's an electric spinning top, I think, from one of the Zeldas.
Okay. I just figured it was a Beyblades reference.
It's also a Beyblade. You get like ice weapons, and ice weapons freeze water, which I feel that's pretty common as a mechanic. And then the last one is you get a robot suit. That's temporary. That's the only one you don't get to keep, is the robot suit. You do get a flamethrower in the fire level. But also the levels, you've got a minecart level, you've got a fire level, you've got an ice level, you've got, what are the other 2 levels?
There's the
Dark
museum.
level. Dark level.
Yeah, darkness.
And then... Oh, it's a wind level, right. The wind blows you side to side.
Is that the bird one?
Yeah, the bird level.
Yep.
Yeah.
So familiar territories in all those, but I think that the sheer diversity of the mechanics here is kind of the draw. So this game has a ton of stuff going on. You've got your swords, you've got your axe. It's got souls mechanics. So when you kill enemies, you get bolts. If you die, half of your bolts get taken away, and you have to go back to where your corpse was to get your bolts back. It has Estus flasks, or shall I say syringes, which fill up your health, but you have to replenish them at save points, which are terminals. Or you can refill it also by killing enemies, which that is not a Dark Souls thing, I don't think. You can't usually refill Estus flasks. It also has an active reload system and a stamina system. So the more you swing, you'll eventually get tired, and then you can't take actions anymore. And when you reload your gun, it's active reload a la Gears of War. And if you fail, it's a slow reload. If you hit it just right, it's a fast reload. So I guess those core 4 mechanics, what did y'all think of those core?
Hold on.
Yep.
The reload is like a little thing you hit a button on?
Yeah. You can, if you hit that bar in the middle, you'll reload faster.
Oh, what the hell? I never did that. I thought it just had to fill up and then it would refill your gun.
Nah, it's got a timing element, and if you hit it right, it refills fast. It's just Gears of War.
That was not made clear.
There's a lot of stuff that's like not super clear. Like I didn't know you could wall jump until the last dungeon.
I didn't know you could wall jump either until it was required to hit one button.
Yeah, you told me about it, and that's what got me to wall jump once. So what did y'all think of, stamina, Estus flasks, corpse runs, and active reload? Did you enjoy them? Did any of them drag?
Active reload I basically ignored. Like I knew it existed, but very seldom did I ever hit it. I liked the stamina just because I feel like it would have been, I don't know, not like too easy, but just like too basic to sort of hack and slash. Honestly though, like what really caught me about this game, both for good and for ill, depending on the moment, was the puzzles. The dungeons are very sort of puzzly, a la Zelda. If you're going to take the hook shot and the boomerang, might just take the puzzles as well. Maybe the part I liked mostly and hated leastly throughout the whole game. If that makes sense.
You did like the puzzles?
So I liked it the most often, and I did hate it, but I didn't hate it that much. So it was good. Make sense?
Yeah. As far as the puzzles go, a lot of it is like finding a code or a button sequence to press in the right order, which if you play the game multiple times, you will actually maybe remember, or if you write it down, you can maybe skip some things. And a lot of block puzzles, especially in the ice level, or basic platforming, spinny top, grinds rails, stuff like that. The dark level has some blocks that appear when it's night, so you gotta toggle the lights a little bit. There's a pretty diverse range of puzzles. Also the mecha puzzle in the final dungeon, the fire dungeon, it's got some brain power you gotta put into it. It's not bad. As far as the game mechanics go, I didn't think that it was oversaturated. Gino, I know we talked about how there might be too much going on. I feel like for a game like this, you have to have at least some diversity of mechanics. Otherwise, it's just like a hack and slash, basically, as Pete said. So,
can we agree that the second hook shot was a little egregious, though?
Best part of the game, second hook shot.
Egregious how?
I understood how it worked within the context of the exploration and the level setup, but it just feels to me that you just design the levels for one hook shot if you want a hook shot.
Two hook shot level design.
I know.
I definitely want to talk about this game's decisions to allow you to skip stuff and jump through stuff, because there, Pete, the double hook shots, there is a lot of stuff that you can do in this game, because it also has a crafting system we haven't discussed yet. Mm-hmm. This game feels in many ways designed for two different play styles. One where you're playing through the game the first time and you're actually engaging with the mechanics as designed. Like you're going through the levels in the proper order, you're learning the weapons in the proper tutorial, you're getting the weapons from the dungeons. And then the second playthrough is like, I know how to make all the weapons, and then I just make them immediately, and now I'm going to break the game.
Wait, can you craft without blueprints?
Sure
Yes.
can.
Oh, well, I did not know that.
If you know the pattern, you could just like make pretty much everything from the first crafting table you find. You just have to have the mats. So if you, for instance, know the pattern for the hook shot, you could make 2 hook shots immediately. You could also make the spinner, which is used to break blocks, and that helps you.
You can make grenades. You can make
the
shuriken. You can make all of the items instantly in this game if you know the patterns.
Yes.
Which is just a very different design style. So, like, in terms of the base mechanics, I found that the active reload, it was the most inconsequential. And so every time I screwed it up, I was like, why is this even here? But, it is what it is. The ongoing Dark Soulsification of indie games, it's not my cup of tea. I am still on the losing side of the Dark Souls culture war, but at least here I think it's less egregious than in some others. Like the corpse runs are pretty short, the levels you can move pretty fast through them, so it didn't bother me all that much. Now the crafting stuff I think is kind of wild. It's got Minecraft style crafting, it gives you a big grid, I think 4x4 grid, and you can just lay out different crafting materials that you'll get from the world in any and all of the squares. And if you come up with a pattern that is correct, it will create an item. And you can actually create all sorts of items like axes, like we said, all of the different mobility items in the game. You can make different guns to change your playstyle. So your basic gun's a pistol, you can get a machine gun, you can get a shotgun. So if you just look up a guide, like I created the hook shot immediately, basically, in my playthrough. And if you do that, you can skip a bunch of stuff. If you make an ice shuriken early on, then you can go around all the ice puzzles. It's just a really weird way to experience the game. So I guess, Pete, you only experienced it normal, right? Like you went through getting the items from the dungeons.
I had no idea you could even craft things without blueprints. I guess this is just my fault. I just assumed you needed them.
You didn't galaxy brain it.
No, I didn't. I was like, well, they say you need blueprints. Better get those blueprints.
I better buy those blueprints.
When you go to the crafting table, there's like the stuff at the bottom, which you can use to craft. And then there's a button that says use blueprints. And if you hit use blueprints, it will give you your list of blueprints. And then you can select one and it will just make it automatically. But I realized this when I had like an attack cog, but I really wanted a defense cog because that's the best one in the game. And so I was like, well, maybe it's the attack one uses this material. What if I swap that for this other material and it worked? So I was like, you can put anything into this grid and maybe it will work. And so that was like kind of an aha moment, which was pretty neat. I liked that. I think games should have like, if you know the stuff, you should be able to sort of like break it in this way. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think this game, it's very much a knowledge is the currency. If you know the sequence of items you need, if you know the specific locations you need to go to, you can do everything instantly. If you do not, then the game becomes regular Metroidvania, where you're, being led around by the nose. So, Em, how did you find it? You actually did. I kind of half broke things. I got the hook shot early. And I made a weapon that I liked better early, but I did not do too much game-breaking stuff. But you went to the full Monty.
Oh.
You made the double hook shot, which I didn't even realize there was a double hook shot at first.
Yeah. At a certain point, you find a thing that's like, if you make a second hook shot, then you will be able to like basically Spider-Man your way around. And I found this like way earlier than I probably was supposed to. And at that point, you'd already recommended like, hey, the hook shot's really good. And so I was like, well, if the hook shot's really good, the double hook shot must be even better. And so I went and I crafted that. And it basically invalidates 90% of the puzzles.
Yeah, 100%.
Double hook shot invalidates puzzles.
Oh, yeah. So in the ice level, there is a river that you kind of have to make an ice float using your ice grenades or some other ice weapon. And then it just like floats along this river that's moving in one direction. And if you have the double hook shot, there are walls on either side, and you can just hook shot to one and then like bounce between walls, which is what I did because at that point I already had realized that I could basically avoid everything by doing this. So you can get through the game with like 3 items: the double hook shot, the spinner, which breaks rocks, and a sword to hit enemies with. Which usually you might say this is like bad. Someone in this call might believe that this is a detriment. But I was like, at the end of the game, there's a board that pops up that has like your name and also, I don't know if it takes from your Steam friends list or anything, but it has your name, how much time you took, and then it has the developers, and there's only 2 developers for this game. Yes, they did a significant amount of work for 2 people, and one of them has a game time of 45 minutes. So clearly they knew what they were doing. They were designing it to be something you can crack in half like this, because one of them clearly knew that that was a thing you could do and did it. There is an achievement, the speedrun achievement, if you complete the game within an hour. There's another achievement, which before our call started, I was doing. There's a way you can get the double jump boots, which make your jump longer. You jump a little bit higher, and you can also like wall bounce. And usually you can't get those in the opening sequence. But if you know how to find them and you have the double hook shot, you can certainly get them. There is a way to get to the factory in the prologue, and you can finish the factory before you meet the other characters, which I also did. So you could go nuts.
Yeah, you can basically invalidate. You could skip most of the game if you so chose.
Yes.
And that's a very interesting design decision. I'm not going to say it's bad. I think it's the ultimate expression of knowledge being power. You know, turn on all the mechanics, you turn them on immediately, and you say, okay, have fun. Now, I think the game is basically not challenging at all if you do that, but it's pretty fast, so it becomes a different game almost, which I think is cool. Like, it's cool to give your players this additional mode of playing so that they don't just bounce off your game as soon as they've beaten it the first time, which sometimes is, you know, the experience that people have. So I don't have a big problem with that. I just think sometimes it's a bit odd to have created this entire pathway that if someone looks at a guide for 2 seconds, it's like, oh, actually don't play the game. You know what the secret is to beating this game? You unlock the double hook shot and then the game is a joke. You unlock it immediately and then it's a joke. Which, that's fine. It's cool that it's there. It's just odd to me that the experience for a player who has a guide and a player who doesn't have a guide, it's not just like a little different. It's not like, I'm going to beat this boss fight slightly more efficiently. It's like, there are no puzzles. Like, almost all of the puzzles are invalidated. Like, there's a bunch of puzzles early on that I was just like, oh, I have the hook shot, hook shot, hook shot, hook shot, hook shot. I don't have to jump. Why would I jump? I don't need any of the water-based platforming stuff because I can just cling on walls, and there are always at least 2 walls. So it's an interesting design decision, I think. Most games don't go this extreme. And so if this sounds like something you're into, I would definitely check out Unsighted. Like, I think giving the game its one run normally is probably what I would recommend, and then go nuts, you know? However you want to play it is valid.
Yeah, I think that it is a good way to approach the development side of things, because if they didn't like have all of these options for how you can overcome puzzles, people would just find them anyway. Like if double hookshot was something you could only find way late in the game, I think there is like something to be said for like giving the player the option to, like, if you want to play the entire game with just the starting sword and go nuts with like clearing all the puzzles, you could do that. You know, it's your experience. Basically, people are going to try to speedrun the game regardless of what you do. Might as well make it interesting, I guess. I was trying to speedrun it. I still took 3 hours to get 2 meteor fragments, but I did a lot of screwing around. I'm not a speedrunner.
You're not a pro gamer yet?
No, not yet, but I can see the path. I understand the concept. It's just hard.
Yeah, for sure. The path to being a pro gamer is a difficult one, but it is one you must tread. So yeah, I think in terms of like the story, there's one mechanic here that we didn't really discuss yet, and it's, I think, the most out of the box thing that this game does. other than like the sheer wildness of giving you the ability to make all the weapons immediately. And that is the game's timer system. So it has a real-time element to it. The more time you spend in game, you will see a counter tick down, day turns to night, all that sort of stuff. In addition to that, all of the characters you meet are automatons that have, as Pete said, this anima, this soul juice that makes them sentient, that makes them not just, the murderous spots you find out in the wilderness. Every character's anima is ticking down. They all have a finite amount of it, and then if they hit 0, they will go unsighted, which means that your characters, that includes your shopkeepers, your main character has a timer. If they run out, it's game over. Your little companion fairy. 1 hour, I think, of in-game time is a minute of real time. So you don't have a lot of time. Like, a lot of the characters have about 2 hours. Your little fairy, I think, has 190 quote-unquote hours, which means 190 minutes. That's not a lot of time, especially in a Metroidvania game, which really encourages exploring.
Yeah, you meet an old woman in, like, the robot village that has, like, 15 minutes of real time. Like, she's dying very quickly.
Yeah, and
Jesus, is she really that close?
It's not a lot, whatever it is.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, there's a lot. These stakes are quite high, and this, I think, runs counter to Metroidvania design in a lot of cases. Like, these styles of games are generally about exploring. They are about going out into the world, finding cool new places, and then seeing stuff, experimenting, going to places that you see in the distance and say, okay, let me figure out how to get there. And especially in a game with puzzles like this, having that constant ticking of the clock when I don't know where I'm going is a real drag. The game, as soon as they introduce this mechanic, tells you can turn it off, and I did. They also have an explorer mode with, like, invincibility and stuff like that. And I probably should have turned that on towards the end because I was starting to get a little frustrated. Because also the PC controls, like, the parry mechanic, because this has parrying because it's got Souls mechanics. The parry button and the run button are adjacent to each other, and both of them are kind of meant to be hit with your pinky. I always want to be sprinting, so I rarely ever parried. But what I was getting to is the ability to turn off those timers, I think, was a real game changer for me. It changed my experience entirely. But I'm wondering, like, Em, as a designer, how do you feel about that? Because there's a giant tension, I think, between the game's central kind of defining mechanic and the way these games are generally played.
Yeah, I saw someone playing this game before I picked it, and I saw them, like, unlock the timer right at the start. It was... When I was sitting there in chat, I was like, that's absolutely horrifying. I would turn that off immediately. And when I picked the game, I was like, you should turn off the timer. There will be a timer. You don't want it on, because that is like an extra level of stress that I, on my first playthrough, did not want to deal with. And every time you die, it also ticks down the timer by a not insignificant amount. It might be 1 hour. It might be longer. I do not remember. In my second playthrough, which I am about 3 hours into, I've noticed that because I am, like, conscious of all of the skips, I'm not terribly, like, offended by it, but it's also not even close to, like, ending anytime soon. I'm interested to see, like, how the actual game experience plays when it is, like, at the forefront, because it is, like Gino said, kind of counter to the core concept of what a Metroidvania is sort of about. I think there are ways that Metroid has done similar things where it's like a timer for one section of the game, but it's not like you will not have a shopkeeper if you allow this to tick down. One mechanic that we didn't really touch on is the Meteor Dust, which is one of the most frequent collectibles you will find, usually in boxes. I think exclusively in boxes, actually. Yep. It is basically a way to add 24 hours to anyone's timer, and you can pass this out to NPCs who you meet. You could also use it on yourself or your fairy helper, and that will, like, raise their affection for you as well. So there are things you can only get if you give them a certain amount of Meteor Dust. And so there are ways you can, like, if you're getting nervous about, like, someone's timer, you can mitigate that if you have a bunch saved up. A lot of the skill puzzles are likely going to reward you with one thing of Meteor Dust. In my first playthrough, I did not use any because there was no need, because the timer was off. And then in my second playthrough, I just found the person who had the item that I wanted the most, and I was like, here you go, you're gonna live forever. So you could do that, or you could just turn the timer off. There's no punishment for that.
You can also, if you find the person who does it, you can murder NPCs and take their time for yourself.
Yeah. Gino, did you
I did not find
this?
Murderella or whatever this person's name is.
Yeah, it's some floating spirit demon. And they basically say, look, you're going to make a lot better use of this time than whoever this person is. So let me know. I'll kill them and you can have it.
Yeah. This is in the starting zone. There's a cathedral. If you go to the top floor of the cathedral, there is a door, and it's like, hey, if you want to keep living, give me some bolts. And then you give them 1,000 bolts, and then you go inside, and there's this giant scythe sticking in the ground. And then someone shows up and is like, hey, you want more time? I'll give you more time, but you got to kill somebody. And I think you can also fight this person somehow, but I haven't figured out how.
So
can you kill the randos?
You can kill any named NPC, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so they have to be named?
Yeah, but you can tell Time Demon here that you want to kill them.
Oh.
They do not like that.
They don't appreciate that?
They don't. They'll give you a couple shots. I didn't push it the whole way through, so I think if you just say, I want to kill you enough, that's probably the point where you get to fight them.
Well, there's also try that next.
Yeah, there's also, I don't mean to ruin anything if people didn't find it, but there's also a time machine.
What?
Yeah, so I didn't bother with this whole puzzle. This was one I just saw on YouTube by a much better gamer than myself. But if you solve this time machine puzzle, you can keep all your gear and like achievements and stuff, but go back in time to when everyone was still alive.
What?
So there is one puzzle. I can't tell you how complicated it is. Like, I don't know how hard it would actually be to do.
Is this the clock?
Yes.
Oh.
So you can rewind time, and that brings everybody back to life.
Editor's note. At this point, the audio cut out for about a minute, and we do not have a recording for this section. So we're picking up at a new conversation. Don't mind this.
Yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to sort of talk about. I didn't spend a lot of time on queer theory in graduate school. I was interested in it, but there weren't any classes in my time there. But I found myself curious. Like, there's a lot of narratives in science fiction where it's like, oh, the robots are replacing the humans, or the animals are replacing the humans, or like whoever is replacing the humans. And I found myself wondering, like, in explicitly queer stories, especially ones that look at the future, if there's some sort of like parallel narrative that's like, the straight people, the heteros have had their time, and now's the time to replace them to create a better, more just society.
Yes.
And maybe you have the answer then. But I was curious if that was like a common narrative in the same way of like robots replacing the people.
Yeah, I think that I am not an expert. I am just in that circle. I think that there is a pretty strong narrative thread of like heteronormativity being this like the old ways, and then as soon as there is a big upheaval such as an apocalypse, that's when like all the outside of the norm things sort of come to fruition in like very visceral ways. So like there is a lot of like post-apocalyptic narratives where it's very queer friendly, even despite the fact that society has fallen, because society was holding that aspect back in some ways.
To make a qualifying question, is it framed as sort of an explicit step towards utopia? That like, oh, these heteronormative straights have ruined the world, but but now that they're gone, we can do things better.
I don't know if it's ever as explicit as that. I think it's like kind of a more in the background sort of like, now that there is no society to apply pressures, we are more free to like express ourselves in gender and sexuality ways. I don't know. There are probably some queer theorists who are like, I don't know about all that.
I'm sure there are a million.
I don't know if you're explaining that correctly.
Oh,
but
so you don't mean to say that the end times are good for the gays?
I mean, listen, it's could it be worse? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this game does. It posits a world where almost everything. The characters in this game are either female presenting or furries for the most part.
Or they're non-binary robot of indeterminate gender.
Yep,
Yeah.
non-gendered robot floating orb with arms.
Yep.
I think the only robot in the game referred to with he, him pronouns gets murked by a big bird.
I'm pretty sure that the boss that was supposed to have the big bird shard was the only he, him in the bosses, and he's never seen on screen, which is very funny to me, actually.
Yes, I think like the game definitely has. Pete, your reading, I think, has purchase in this game's narrative.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out that the two developers are two trans women from Brazil, I believe. So if there's a queer narrative, it's probably pretty overt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gay robot future.
Yes.
I forget. I wish I could remember their names, but I totally stand for the relationship between the one giant silver robot and the much smaller pink robot.
Joanna and someone else.
Yes, that is I would just watch their, spin-off relationship show.
Joanna and the Crushinator.
I think Joanna is the big one.
Yeah, that's even better.
Because you have to read.
They actually want the hookshot recipe, and then if you give it to them, they can reunite. And it's very nice.
Yeah, I did not find them after I gave the large one, gave them the hookshot recipe, but that's adorable. This game has a lot of little charming interactions like that, and I didn't spend as much time talking to the NPCs because there's a lot of game here if you play it the normal way, and I kind of wish I had spent some more time conversing as you go through the game.
Yeah, everybody is super pleasant, except for the Goo Monsters, obviously, and we probably need to say where they came from.
Yeah, so the further you get in, the more you start to realize that perhaps the Goo Monsters have something to do with humanity. Perhaps the Goo Monsters have Raquel, your robot girlfriend. And so you eventually make your way to the tower. You find all the MacGuffins. You make the MacGuffin sword or MacGuffin axe. It's your decision.
But something bad happens to it.
It gets corrupted.
Yeah.
Grows eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all spooky and weird.
And it demands blood.
Yeah, if you kill the big monsters that are harassing certain areas...
And there's like 80 of them. There's many.
There's 30. There's so many. It'll upgrade that sword if you kill them. And if you kill any before you get that sword, you get an achievement for that. Because it should be pretty hard, but it's actually pretty easy.
They're very dumb. They just have a lot of life. I
mean, if you parry, then you can... Shut up.
Who parries?
We gotta talk about your aversion to parrying.
Blocking is for idiots and the enfeebled. Dodging is supreme.
How much damage did you do to bosses?
20 to 30.
What weapon were you using?
I used the regular sword and then the electro sword. I put all of my chips into hitting hard.
Okay. If you parry boss abilities, then they will get staggered, and then if you hit them, you get a multiplier on your attack, which is 10 to 20 times.
Ooh, cowardly.
So you could have done a lot more damage by blocking stuff. I'm just saying. And those big monsters, you deal 1 damage to them unless you have the final blade, and then you'll deal normal amounts of damage. If you fully upgrade it, you will deal 500 damage to them on a parry. I'm just saying.
Well, if there wasn't so much shame associated with playing that way, I would do it. But alas, it is what it is. Cowardly. You know what? I'm glad you were able to admit that you played this way on the show.
There's no judgment here, but you are a coward.
Damn. Well, what did you do, Pete?
I parried. I tried to. Let me phrase it that way. I tried to parry. It wasn't always successful.
It takes a skilled hand to perform the parry maneuver. It is not cowardly, it is skill.
My pinky neatly rests on the run button. Moving it to the parry button, it's just a lot of energy. I don't need that. And I always want to hold down the run button. You don't move that fast by default. I want to always be moving fast. Can we agree that the best chip in the game is the one that makes it so you don't lose stamina for sprinting?
Yes.
It's a good chip. Chips are upgrades, by the way. We didn't mention.
Yeah.
Yes. There's an upgrade system. Like there's an upgrade system, there's the crafting system, there's a fishing system, there's a digging system.
Yeah, if you can think of a system, it's in there.
It's in there. And like honestly, one of the most remarkable things about this game is that it shipped at all, because there's so much like feature creep sort of evidence all over this game, and it all came out well. Like all of these features are fully implemented and they all work. I found no bugs. I didn't find that any of the systems were left wanting. Like they all work as intended. It just amazed me that they said yes to so many different things and then they all work.
Goo Monsters.
Yes. So the Goo Monsters, you can... Oh, we didn't even talk about... This game has couch co-op, too. Like, you could do that. I don't know if we mentioned it earlier, but that's also cool. So the Goo Monsters, you go to the tower. There's the corpses of humanity, I guess is what you'd call them.
Yeah,
in there.
It's strewn with science corpses and text logs, or audio logs, I guess. I'm not sure which is which, but you read them.
I guess they're audio journals because they're not written as like, I'm just leaving this password around to you, Philip. Oh no, I got killed. So that's good. What happened to the people, Pete or Em?
I guess I'll field this one. So basically what happens is the scientists start juicing with anima, and they start with animals, and it doesn't go so well, but they decide, screw it, we're going to press ahead anyway.
For science.
Yes.
You know, when the first mouse turns into a goo beast, I would simply not ingest the space dust.
Well, Gino, that's why you're not a very good scientist.
Would be wrong.
So they press ahead. I don't know. Do you remember who they use? Whoever they use, they don't tell them. They just inject them. But I can't remember if it's like prisoners or like mental patients or what have you.
Prisoners. They say something to the effect of like they're gonna pay for whatever they have done
by their sins.
Yeah, they're gonna be in service to the greater good or whatever.
Well, they try it, and basically what happens is it sort of works. Like they're bigger, better, faster, stronger, but they get addicted to the anima. They just need more and more and more and more, and eventually it turns them all into goo beasts, and they rampage.
Hate to see it. Couldn't happen to nicer people.
It's very sort of Planet of the Apes. Oh my God, they were humans all along.
Who could have seen that coming?
I can't believe the people were the bad guys in this video game.
Yeah, who would have thought, honestly? I thought it was going to be a real twist. But the boss isn't human.
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about that final boss?
I'm still very confused. Here's my high-level overview. It's some sort of strange alien that came and became disgusted with humanity. Is that it?
Something like that. The final boss is like, I think it's called the Anima Essence or something to that effect. It is like from space, and it says something like, we wanted to give human sentience, and then they fucked it up, and then we gave it to the robots too, and you guys are gonna fuck it up too, and so now we're gonna fight.
And so now boss fight.
Yeah, and they were using Raquel for this. She actually was like captured by the humans, and then they were like doing their anima tests, and she was like, I'm going to go down to where the meteor is, and I'm going to take that anima so that, I don't know, it got unclear at a certain point. I might have missed some log somewhere.
Yeah, it got very convoluted. Long story short, you basically save the world with the power of love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the final boss looks at you, laughs, and then you kick its ass, and it's like, oh, love's your answer? Let's see if this works. I'll go and slumber in the core of the earth some.
Yeah. So you're going to rebuild the world in the name of love. You want to talk about that like final sequence there?
How very U2 of it all.
I'll talk about it.
Yeah, you got the crumbly tower bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
So the tower starts to crumble, and Alma and Raquel fall out of the like space void where they were. And then Iris is like, "We got to get out of here. It's gonna fall." And you have the option of either saving Raquel or just leaving her there on the ground. And obviously, you gotta save her. Like, what are you doing
Sure.
if you don't? And Iris is like, "It's gonna be harder to get up the tower because you're gonna have to lug her body around."
that. Kind of.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder, but you got 5 minutes. It's one of those like Metroid final battle timers, which they do in every game. And it's a little more annoying, but like you go up ladders and you don't seem to have any trouble. You just
No, I
have to
gotta-
put her.
The alternative is leaving the love of your life to die. So
Yeah,
I mean,
You
I
just-
still got out with like 2 extra minutes.
yeah, you just have to put her down to like fight monsters, and sometimes there's like a growth in your way that you gotta kill, but then you get out of there and then the tower like explodes, and then you and your robot girlfriend kiss, and that's not something you see in games every day.
they're usually not robots.
I wish I saw it more, honestly. And then
Is-
they like ride away on a motorcycle to save other places.
Was the last time we saw robots kiss in that really dumb game that makes you play it twice?
Which one?
The
That
one
could
where the
be-
main character has. Yeah, I know. That could be any number of games we played.
Yes.
Main character is an android with a blindfold.
Nier
Schoolgirl skirt.
Automata.
Near Automata, yes.
Yes, that is also a game where the robots kiss, but they are not girl robots.
And one is. Well,
Yes.
presumably.
Technically, neither of them are.
Right.
It's
They both
Yoko Taro.
are and are not.
Yeah, we don't have to unpack all that again. We talked about that game.
we spent 3 episodes unpacking that. If you want to hear us unpack it, go back like 2 years. I think.
At length.
Yeah. Oh boy. This game is a little bit of Nier Automata though. But I'd play this many more times than I would play Nier Automata again.
Oh yeah. You mean you
Percent.
play this game that you can beat in 45 minutes more than that game that takes 40 fucking hours and you have to play it like
Yes.
5 times?
Yes. Shocking, I know.
How courageous.
Just last piece about the ending. It is a beautiful, heartwarming scene. If you don't decide to leave the love of your life in a crumbling tower,
I am interested to see what actually happens if you do leave her behind.
Just regret.
I can answer you if you'd like to know.
Oh, cool.
Sure.
I watched all the endings
Okay.
just to see what the difference was. So basically, all that changes is who does the narration and who shows up to like congratulate you on your victory. So if you don't save Raquel, you ride away on the motorcycle on your own. If you stay in the tower with Raquel, no one rides on the motorcycle, and the robots just sort of narrate the ending themselves. And the NPCs that show up are the ones that were still alive. So
Right.
if everyone dies, then it's just like unnamed rando NPCs.
Huh.
So basically just change.
Okay.
Billy Bot 500
Exactly.
shows up.
Yeah.
They're all pretty good endings. It's just who's around, really.
Well, that's good to know.
That's very funny.
Did you know you can not pick up Iris in the starting zone?
Is that the fairy bot?
Yeah.
And then like who tells you stuff?
No one.
That's
Like, there is an achievement for beating the final boss without her, and I don't know what the benefit is of doing that, but I was like, well, second playthrough, I might as well, so I'm going to find out.
Did you just find Iris's corpse at the end of the game? Like, she could have been my buddy, but instead she died.
I could have not been a bastard and got her out of this rubble, but then she would have been annoying every time I died, so
You've been like, do you know about parrying? And I've been like, yes, Iris, I know about parrying.
I am
Shut up
familiar
about
with parrying.
Yeah, so I think that basically covers it for Unsighted. Any other final closing thoughts?
I liked it. I think it's good.
Yeah. If you want a game that has a vast depth of stuff that you can entirely ignore if you so choose, is a good game for that. There is a secret boss. Pete, do you know about this one?
So I know you can fight Scytheman.
Yeah.
But you already mentioned that, Em. Is there an additional one?
There's an additional one, but I have not figured out how to find them yet.
So there are variations on the final boss.
Oh,
So the final
really?
boss can, I don't know how, but somehow the final boss can take the sword of killing and use it against you.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and then they take a different form when they do that, but I don't know how the final boss gets the Sword of Killing.
Damn. Okay, so there's a little bit more to be uncovered. Because I was looking at the achievements, because I was like, there's a lot of neat little things in here. And I saw that there was like a secret boss, and there's also like a true final boss, which I guess is the one that gets the Sword of Killing.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I don't know. But I don't know how to fight those guys. So I was wondering if in your research you saw, but doesn't sound like it.
No, I might have, but by now I guess I've forgotten.
There's no guides that I can find for this game also. This game came out September of this year, so it's only like 3 months old at this point. So it's still very early on. Maybe there's more to it than we know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I got a glitch chip at one point. One of the robots will give you this chip that has a very specific, I don't even know how to, it doesn't do anything in my version. Like, it just reverses your controls, but I bet that it does something if you play the game properly.
You told me about that while you were streaming earlier, and I was like, oh, I want to go back and find that, because it seems like one of those Mega Man Battle Network things where it's like you can glitch yourself out, but there are ways to use it to your advantage, and I want to know. It's scratching that itch again.
Yeah, it seems like that is what's going on for sure. Well, now it is my turn to pick once again, and I want to pick something weird.
Yay.
Okay.
I have options, folks.
Ooh.
I want to pick one of two weird games. Either a Katamari Damacy of some kind, or Bug Snacks.
You're going to have to explain to me what all those words mean.
Okay.
Have you not played Katamari?
Is that the one where you roll the ball around?
You roll the ball
Yes.
around and you
Okay.
soak up humanity.
Gotcha. I've never played it. I do know what that is then. What is Bug Snacks?
Bug Snacks is a game where you play as a critter, a person on an island where it's covered in bugs that are also snacks, and you are what you eat.
Yeah, you like eat a bug and it turns your arm into a strawberry or something.
Into a French fry.
Yeah, and that helps you somehow. I don't remember.
It's unclear how.
So you're more fun Chimera ants.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Except the ants are made of hot dogs.
Snacks. All right. I think they both sound good. They both sound weird. My vote would be Bug Snacks.
I didn't mention Bug Snacks is from the makers of Octodad.
Yes.
My vote is less enthusiastic, but maintains the same.
You didn't like Octodad?
I was ambivalent about Octodad.
Fair. For more about Octodad, please see our Octodad episode.
Good plug. Good plug.
I would have been more about Katamari, but then when we discussed this in stream earlier, ZP and also Brayden Arbitrary Water were like, oh god, do you know the secret about Bug Snacks? And I was like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, don't look it up. So now I gotta play Bug Snacks.
Good. There's no secret to Katamari. Katamari's just like, this world is a hellscape. The Prince of all Cosmos is very put upon. The King of all Cosmos is a nightmare person. Roll up these people. Roll them all up.
It's fairly straightforward.
All right, so Bug Snacks it is. Next week we will be next time we will be talking about Bug Snacks. Excellent. Well,
You
thank
just
you.
wanted to say that, didn't you?
Well, that was the tagline.
Yeah.
Talking about Bug Snacks. Everybody loves Bug Snacks.
It almost
Ooh,
feels
that's
like the Super Hot thing where it's like,
Super hot.
say Super Hot is the best game ever.
Yeah. this
Talk
was-
about Bug Snacks with your friends.
You must.
Talk about do it.
You must talk about the Bug Snacks. All right. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, this was a good one. Solid pick. I support it.
Yeah,
Thank you, M.
I did it. I picked a good one. It'll never happen again. Make the double hook shot. Skip all the puzzles.
Do it.
Do it.
And thank you, listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace.